的圣听，为此法。Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samya samputoshe. Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samya samputoshe. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in millions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. It is the 29th of June. My goodness, we're almost done with June. And it is 7:30. I'm here in Berkeley, California, along with Dharma friends. How's the volume in the back, Jim? Sure? Loud enough? Can you hear it? Yeah. Good? Okay, good. And we are about to commence our weekly Avatamsaka Sutra lecture. Gratitude last week to Dharma Master Heng, who stood in while I traveled up to Oregon, where I was this morning at 4 a.m. And hopped in a recreational vehicle and made it back here in 12 straight hours of driving to be with you all tonight. Wouldn't miss it for the world. We're going to invoke spiritual presence, invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka assembly to draw near. Here we go. Now, oh, you know what? I just realized I bamboozled myself by tuning the banjo to a different tuning. Don't go away. Be right there. Got it. Here we go. Namo Dharma pusa. One more time. So, not only myself, but a number of us here tonight drove all the way back from eastern coastal Oregon to be here for the Sutra. We want to say that the Chochechno Ohlone people practice spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation here in what we call Berkeley, in the East Bay, on their ancestral land for tens of thousands of years, and today we acknowledge them as traditional storytellers and the custodians of these lands. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 那就是说，我们恭敬地承认 Chochechno Ohlone 人，他们是我们寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬。并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Yes. The bells sound wide, resound throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报贪诺厚德。Here we go. Alrighty. Now, what's on the program tonight? How do you like my Buddha Root Farm Endless Road photograph? Isn't that suggestive? It's just like never ending. It's the Bodhisattva path. So we will finish up Sudana's visit to his second good and wise advisor, whose name is Doyun Bicho, Cloud of Virtues. And the themes that are coming up in the sutra are common but uncommon. What is it? Relationships. What kind of relationships? In this case, what is emphasized over and over is teacher and student. Teacher and student relationships. And I had one of the questions. When we do the Buddha Root Farm Oregon Coastal Mountain Retreat every year, the teaching happens all over the mountainside, in the kitchen, alone in your tent, walking with a group down a beautiful green mountain trail with the morning sun slanting in. But a lot of the wordy teaching happens in what we call a chan hall, which is just a long rectangular building with an empty floor. And everybody grabs a cushion and sits in the circle, women on the side, men on the side, and the Q&A, the questions and answers really flow. It's not a traditional classroom setup. Traditional classroom setup, pretty much, the teacher or the facilitator or the instructor is in the center, all the desks are facing him, and there's no provision for seeing anybody else in the room. He can see or she can see you all, but you can't, you all see the back of the heads of everybody in front of you. So that's called command and control. It's very vertical. The instructions come down. The students, these hungry vessels, just open up and absorb the teachings. And like in Taiwan, they call it 填牙式. You just shove the food down the throat of the goose until their livers expand and blow up. Then you cut them up and sell it for pâté de foie gras. Cruel. And you only get one shot if you're the goose. Students, that is a way, that's a time-honored method of teaching. The way Master Hua taught was he wanted to see if he was connecting. He wanted to see if what he was saying was being understood. And how do you do that? You ask. Anybody got any question? 谁有什么问题没有啊? He would always say. And then he would say, 你如果没有问题，我就有问题了，我会问你们，你们赶快问. He would say, you better ask soon, or I'm going to ask you questions, and that could get uncomfortable. So you ask your questions. Don't be afraid. So that's what we do. We encourage lots of back and forth. And when it's working, when everybody feels empowered to ask a question, when people aren't afraid to ask. And what I don't hear is the preamble, the famous preamble. Well, this is kind of a stupid question, but I wanted to know, that one. People don't repeat that. Maybe they say it once. Pretty quickly you drop that and you just ask your question. So this young man said, let's say we have an encounter with Guanyin Bodhisattva. What's our role vis-a-vis Guanyin Bodhisattva? We've heard that Buddhas can't get close to living beings because they're simply too awesome. So Buddhas sometimes appear in different forms, Bodhisattva's forms. We've heard that Guanyin Bodhisattva appears in 32 different bodies or many more. So how do you relate to him? He said. It's a really good question. And I had an answer. And he got it. It was so nice to be ready with an answer that completely got it. So what's the context? The context is Sudana, our pilgrim. Here he is. Sudana, this is the chapter that we're working on, and we're starting with this one, and we're going to go all the way down to the bottom tonight. So what is it? We're investigating Sudana's relationship to his teachers. And what I told the young man, was it last night? Yesterday afternoon. I said, the way I understand, I can't speak for bodhisattvas because I don't have that sugga. I'm not a bodhisattva to explain. But what I understand is that the role of the Buddha or a bodhisattva is like a coach. We've got coaches. We know what coaches are. Anybody who's been on any kind of sports team, if you've ever had a lifestyle coach, if you, where else do coaches show up? Let's just do sports. So some of us are football players, some of us are rugby players, some of us are volleyball players, some of us swim team. What does the coach do? The coach knows how to play, but it's not his job to take one step onto the field. She stays on the sidelines, having trained you, and puts you in at the right time, sets you down at the right time, replaces you with another player, and keeps the score, keeps everything fair and balanced and running. And when you trip and fall down, the coach is out there to be sure you're not hurt and to pick you up and say, try again, sideline. If you win, if you score, the coach is there to keep your happiness recycled so that you can go out and score again. Keep you from being delirious, right? Coaches keep us in the middle. That's what a coach does. The coach doesn't play. He prepares you to play. The Buddha doesn't cultivate for us and doesn't do anything to us. The Buddha can't do it for us, and he can't make you, force you, trick you into doing it yourself. He prepares us, encourages us, teaches us the method, and then lets the magic of the Dharma work on you. The effectiveness of the coach depends upon his or her virtue. If they're virtuous, we believe them. We do what they say. We take the instructions, go down the field, and cross the goal line. Cultivate to success. So I said, what do you think of that answer? He's like, yeah, all right, okay. Yeah, Buddha as coach. So that's one analogy. What else, how else do we understand Buddhas? You know, it's like, in Christianity, just to name it, you cannot cultivate your way to heaven. You cannot work your way to heaven. By grace alone are you saved. You have to wait for ta li, others' strength. And okay. Our Pure Land method with Amitabha is ta li, but you still have to exercise tzu li. And you could say, somebody wanted to be critical and push the point, you could say, well, if I don't call on Guanyin Bodhisattva's name, if I don't say Namo Guanyin Buddha, nothing happens, right? Correct. So is that tali? You relying on Guanyin? Yeah, you know, but Guanyin does come to save us if you call on her name. That's the method. Shun Shang Jiu Ku, it's called. And in that regard, Guanyin, the circle of Guanyin herself overlaps with the circle of Guanyin as Amitabha's right-hand bodhisattva, right? Let's see. Right here in the middle, not the stained glass, but on the wall. Because the stained glass is so beautiful, you kind of don't see them. But that's Amitabha on the white wall, the long, narrow painting image. That's Guanyin on the right, and that's Great Strength Bodhisattva on the left. Those are the three sages of the Pure Land. So Guanyin also appears there, but the red-robed stained glass Bodhisattva is also Guanyin Bodhisattva, waiting for us to call her name to initiate the saving that she does. But what does she say? Here's a perfect example. We went over this one a couple nights ago. Guanyin appears in most of the major Mahayana sutras. She appears in the Shurangama Sutra to teach you how to turn your hearing back. She appears in the Vajra Sutra, the Diamond Sutra. I'm sorry, said it wrong. In the Heart Sutra, the Heart of Prajnaparamita. Boro Boro Mido Shinjing Guan Zizai Pusa Shingshan Boro Boro. There it is. There she is right there. She appears in the Earthstore Sutra, praising Earthstore Bodhisattva. She appears where? In the Lotus Sutra. Oh, the Pumanpin, chapter 25 of the Lotus. She appears in the Dharani Sutra, where we get the story about the Great Compassion Mantra. But then, many people who have not read this very chapter that we're lecturing on don't know, the Guanyin Bodhisattva appears in the Avatamsaka as one of Sudana Bodhisattva's good advisors. And what does she say? She, excuse me, she outlines 14 kinds of fear that she takes away from us. She removes fear from our hearts. And it's called Shi Wei Pusa, the Bodhisattva who dispels fear and gives courage. She's the courage bringer Bodhisattva. And I have had experience with that function of Guanyin, where times of anxiety, boy oh boy, you can have them. Something scares you, really scares you. If at that moment you remember to recite Namo Guan Sri Pusa, or Guanyin Pusa, or Namo Guanyin, or Guanyin Pusa, Guanyin Pusa, Guanyin Pusa, or Joku Jonan, Namo Datsa Dabe Joku Jonan, Guan Sri Pusa Mohasa. You can string it out. If you call on Guanyin's name, somehow that fear just seems like a waste of energy. You don't need it. It's gone. So this is a really, really good method to teach to children. If you have kids who are afraid of the dark, when mom and dad or brother and sister turn the light out and go downstairs and they're alone in their room, if you have prepared them and teach them to recite at times like that, Namo Guan Sri Pusa, say, I have a big friend who will help you out tonight if you're afraid. You recite Namo Guan Sri Pusa or Namo Guanyin Pusa, Guanyin Pusa. Make it short for kids. They'll grab it, they'll take it, because having a big friend is better than being alone in that room with the thing that's in the closet over there, waiting for the lights to go out to pounce. If you can encourage kids to recite Guanyin, then that makes a big difference to them later on. Guanyin says, I remove 14 kinds of fear. Then what does Guanyin say? After I've done that, I teach living beings to make the great Bodhi resolve. Fa da puti xin, she says. So that's interesting. And the Bodhi resolve is kind of like the starting gate. That's the launching pad for the cultivation of the Bodhisattva path. So my point is, Guanyin can give us courage so that we can face fears, the fears dissolve, and we can go through with what was anxious, anxiety-provoking. But then she also teaches us about our potential. The Bodhi Resolve says, go for your highest potential and recognize what's in the way of realizing that, which is our habits and faults. Living beings, that is to say. So arrogance, obstacle. Lack of self-confidence, obstacle, the opposite of arrogance. So both of those will get in the way. So we work on removing those two ways of looking at this self, and then find a practice that we like and cultivate it. So this is Guanyin Bodhisattva's method. All right, that's what we talked about in terms of coaching. Here is Sudana Bodhisattva's, Sudana Shancai Tongsi, the young man. This is his good and wise advisor. And what is he telling him? He's telling him how to nian for, how to keep the Buddha in your mind. The word is mindfulness, mindfulness of the Buddha. Now, mindfulness of the Buddha has become, mindfulness, that is, has become this new popular Western way to find peace in our daily lives. That's pretty much why people learn mindfulness from whatever teacher they... there are how many apps now? There's in the Apple Store, in the iOS store, there's something like even 100 meditation apps these days. Mindfulness, they're just like boom. And most of them focus on breathing, bringing the mind back to this present moment, which is all good. Those are all ways you can find peace of mind and enhanced concentration and all. None of them teach what Bhikshu Cloud of Virtues teaches Sudana. Here is the expert from our tradition, from the Mahayana. What does he say? He says, are we ready? I'll give you a line, you gave it back. Is it big enough here? We want it big. Notice this beautiful text has the Hanzi. Here they are. And right beside the Hanzi, there is Guanyin Zimu, the romanization system used in Taiwan. And underneath, there is, this is Zhuyin Fuhao, right? Underneath is Hanyu Pinyin, which is the romanization system used everywhere else in the world. So we have 3 different ways to say these characters. If you can read the character, you're all set. If you want to try, what does Chinese sound like coming out of your mouth so your own ears can hear it? Give it a go. No harm. The cameras are facing this way. It's okay. Nobody's going to notice if you say it funny. And it's really fun to hear these ancient sounds coming out of your mouth. Plus, it's the Buddha's own words. So, nothing to lose. Let's start. I want to make sure that's the right one. Yes, that's the right one. We've got 8 in a row that we're going to go through. Let's do them one by one, and then Chinese, English, Chinese, English. Okay? Here we go. Ready? 住广大念佛门，心常观察，一一佛身，重遍一切，诸法界故。Alrighty, ready? Here we go. Let's do it together and let the white space be. Look at the punctuation. Here we go. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha, of abiding in magnificence, where your mind always contemplates the Buddha's bodies pervading the Dharma realms. Whoa. Okay, that's mindfulness, but this is Avatamsaka mindfulness. What is it? You can, every one of these is the same to here. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of. Okay, that's the boilerplate part of each of these methods. These are techniques. He's giving him, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it that way, or that way, or that way. Our teacher, our coach, is a master of all these methods. He's teaching young Sudana, who's there like going, wow, oh, whoa, I never, whoa, really? You know, he's just getting this Dharma nectar poured into his glass, and it's full and overflowing with incredible ways to get enlightened, to leave suffering and get to a place of joy. So, what is it? The method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in magnificence. Wouldn't you like to abide in magnificence? I haven't abided. I haven't abided in magnificence for a while. Mostly, I'm kind of pathetic. I didn't wash all week. I was really abiding in ripeness this week. Luckily, we have a nice shower stall here. So, your mind always contemplates the Buddha's bodies pervading the Dharma realm. Buddha's bodies filling up everywhere. That's a wonderful way to nian for. One more. Ready? Here we go. Right there. Ready? 诸维系念佛门，大家一起来。I'm sorry， 我先念，你们念。诸维系念佛门，语义矛盾，语义矛盾， 有不可说如来出现，悉知其所而成是故。Ready together? There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in subtlety, where on the tip of a single hair, ineffably many thus come ones appear, and you can go to their locations and serve them. Okay, the key word here is 维系, subtle. And yes, he's got the tiniest thing, kind of the tiniest material thing, which would be the tip of a hair. That's pretty subtle, right there. And on the tip of that hair, 不可说, no way to talk about how many Buddhas appear there. And what else? You can go there to each of those Buddhas places and offer them a cup of tea or a fan if it's hot, or you can serve them lunch, or you can recharge their cell phone if it's down, whatever they need. So look at this, the spiritual imagination of the sutra. If I said, I would like you to visualize a Buddha in your mind, maybe we would, who would it be? Maybe it would be a Buddha sitting in full lotus, right? Maybe it would be Amitabha standing up like that. Maybe it would be Medicine Buddha with nets of light coming out of his body. Maybe you would only see the hand or just the head. Everybody, I suspect, would have a different Buddha. Master Doyun has this incredible spiritual vitality, is the word? Active, what is it? He's so alive, his imagination is so alive that he's got inexpressibly many Buddhas, which are big, in a tiny place, all fitting there neatly without colliding. Furthermore, as 3D becomes 4D, you can go there and enjoy interacting with Buddhas, serving them. Lively. Yeah, not boring. I think people, before they touch sutras, assume it's going to be something stiff and kind of, you have to stand still, you have to be really formal in order to appreciate it. And no, you could go to a hair tip and serve limitless numbers of Buddhas there any way you like. Next, here we go. 住庄严念佛门，于一念中见一切刹，皆有诸佛成等正觉，现身变故。Ready? Let's go. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in adornments, where in one thought, within all kshetras, one sees Buddhas accomplishing impartial right awakening and manifesting spiritual powers. Okay, this method, says Doyun Bicho, he says you can have this happen in your mind if you choose. You abide in adornments. That's pretty much meaningless English. How do you abide in an adornment? 住庄严念佛门. Literally, live in, adorned. 念佛门. Rest. 住 can also mean not live, but rest in, to stop in, to go there and abide, to stay, to stay. You can stay in a place of magnificence. 庄严 also means splendid, magnificent, outstanding, excellent. You stay in a place of excellence as you recite the Buddha's name. And from that place, what happens? In a single thought, just one mind picture, within every Buddha land, you can see Buddhas getting enlightened. Not only do they get enlightened, but they show what we would call miracles. They can do things that science can't explain, and yet it's entirely a function of their virtue. The problem with displaying spiritual powers is, manifesting spiritual powers is, we have nothing to compare them with except Marvel Comics and superhero movies. And I mean, those are fine. Captain America is got that shield, and Wolverine has his finger blades, and okay, we see those, and it's almost like, yeah, in the Marvel universe, those are real things, but we don't take it seriously. We don't, and I think it's a realm of entertainment. That's entertainment. When, here's an example. So in this story, it could imply that I know that Master Hua has spiritual powers. I don't want to make that claim. I'll just tell you what I saw. We can make our own conclusions. So it was a Saturday morning, and Saturday mornings were gathering times at Gold Mountain Monastery in San Francisco. It was, people weren't going to school, they weren't on the job on Saturdays. So the first thing that we did at 8 o'clock was bow one scroll, one juan of the Medicine Buddha Repentance, Yao Shi Chan, in English. That was the fun part, was it was in English. It had been translated. So I would come over from Berkeley in my 1962 Volvo and 1967 Volvo, the last year of the classic Volvos, and park it on 15th Street, and then scuttle across to the door, come in, and there would be our lay families who were living in San Francisco around the monastery. And over the years, the kids came with mom and dad, and they grew up, and they are now moms and grandmoms now, those kids back then. But I remember one particular Saturday morning when the Bach family came over, Bachs, and their little daughter was running around, and she and Shari were best friends. And she ran up to Shifu, and Shifu had, Master Hua had hard candies in his sleeves. Shifu's robe was these butterfly sleeves. And he would keep, orange and lime and grape and cherry candies wrapped in paper. And when the kids would come up, he would ask them their name or ask them to recite something for him, and he would give them some candy, and it worked just great. So he did, and then Shifu went into the dining room to prepare his Chinese class that he was going to teach after lunch, writing on the blackboard in the dining room. I was there with him, helping with the paperwork. And somebody came running in from the Buddha hall. Shifu, come help, Shifu. And Shifu said, what? So the two of us went into the Buddha hall, and here was little Guofang, the young girl, who had sucked the hard candy down and it stuck in her throat. She had inhaled when she put it in her mouth, and she had swallowed it, and it was blocking her air pipe. And she was turning blue right there on the Buddha Hall floor. And Shifu immediately said to there were about 5 of us, her distraught parents and other lay people. He said, 赶快念大悲咒. Recite the Great Compassion Mantra now, he said. So we're reciting Great Compassion Mantra. He said, 要诚心, be sincere. So we're like, reciting. And Shifu took the little girl's hand in his hand and tapped on, he took her hand and he tapped on the back of her hand. And within about 10 seconds, she went, ka-too, and out came the hard candy, spit on the floor. And she's taking a full deep breath. And Shifu said, recite to the end, keep reciting. So we recited to the end of one Great Compassion Mantra. And he said, that's enough. And he said, so now you see, he said, looking left and right, how the Great Compassion Mantra really delivers when you need it. And we were looking at Shifu and went, right, Shifu. We saw that, right? And I don't think there was anybody in the room who connected our fumbling reciting of the Great Compassion Mantra with that little girl spitting out her hard candy. What did Shifu do to save that little girl? No idea. No idea. Don't know. But it worked. It worked. And now, like I say, I'm not going to tell you that I know that was Shifu Shentong, but it wasn't our Great Compassion Mantra. Now, the problem with that story is that makes it sound like the Dabeijiu didn't work. It's not. It's that our Fa, Li, our Dharma strength, was not enough to work it, even though there were 5 of us. But together, Shifu wanted us to get in the habit of, in a situation like that, not to panic, not to be afraid, but instead to reach for Guanyin Bodhisattva's methods. In this case, it was the Great Compassion Mantra. And having the good and wise advisor right there to do the saving, that helped. That helped. That story is, boy, she was going down. She couldn't, and people had hit her on the back, and it was right in the wrong spot. So. Okay, right here, this one. Are you ready? 助能是念佛门，见一切佛出现世间，放之慧光，转法论故。Okay, we ready? Here we go, right here. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha, of abiding in Buddha's events, where one sees Buddhas appearing in the world, releasing wisdom light, and turning the wheel of Dharma. Okay, there is, once you start reading into stories of the Buddha, and all of the legends and histories and encounters about the Buddha, even though this is 2,500 years ago, mind you, those stories overlap in a remarkable way. And what you discover is that this is deep, old literature. For example, I grew up Methodist, and there was one God, and it was pretty clear that thou shalt have no other gods before that one. So this is called monotheism. Most of the world goes with that story, right? Islam is monotheistic. Allah, merciful. Where else? Judaism. Judaism is monotheistic. It's just one. You don't say his name, but there's one. And certainly Christianity, the church is one foundation, is Jesus Christ our Lord. And he becomes Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, but that's part of the story, all right? In general, it's one. Now, when you get to Hinduism, my goodness, if you ask Indians, are you a Hindu? They'll say, I hate that name. No, we are believers from Bharata, from India, where there have always been multiple strains of belief. There is Vishnu, there is Shiva, there is Indra, there is Rama, there is Krishna, on and on. And Mother India has always produced all of these wonderful ways to be alive spiritually, right? Buddhism grew up in that place, but once you touch the deep literature, you're looking over there at 100 volumes, that's the Buddhist Bible, so to speak, the Tripitaka, the three baskets. There's 100 volumes of Buddhist stories there. Not all of them are about the Buddha, but once you get there, what you discover is there are some similarities over the lifetimes of many Buddhas. For example, every spring at City of 10,000 Buddhas, we bow to 10,000 Buddhas' names. Now, one of the patterns that comes out from all of those Buddhas' names is what is called Ba Xiang Cheng Dao, the 8 hallmarks where Buddhas realize the way. 8 hallmarks with which Buddhas realize the way. And here are 3 of them. Buddhas appear in the world, they release the light of wisdom, and they turn the wheel of Dharma. What are these? These are called here it's Neng Shi. Could be For Shi. Buddha's events, Buddha doing, Buddha's busyness, right? Buddha things that Buddhas do. And that pattern of 8, the standard, is our teacher here, Master Cloud of Virtue, didn't give us all 8, but when you see those 3, you know what's behind it. Buddha, there are more than one lists of the 8, but by and large, they involve the Buddha living in the Tushita heaven, coming down to his mother's womb, Lady Maya. The Buddha coming forth, being born, he leaves home, he realizes the way, he releases light, he subdues the demons. That's an important part. The Buddha encounters negativity and transforms it, and then turns the Dharma wheel, and then enters nirvana, and his sharira, his relics, are distributed. That's 10, I know. But those are the 2 places that the lists overlap. So, what are Buddha's events? What do Buddhas do? No matter how many Buddhas you have, they're all going to do something, some set of these events. Okay? So multiple Buddhas doing multiple Buddhas events. But there is a pattern. Here we go. Ready? 住自在心念佛门，知随自心，所有欲要，一切诸佛，现其相故。Okay, Bhikshu Cloud of Virtue says, you want to be mindful? You can be mindful this way. You ready? Here we go. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha, of abiding in the sovereign mind, where you know that according to your thoughts, Buddhas manifest their reflections. Okay, of all of these, if I had to pick one that we could talk about the rest of the night, this is probably the one. This is, let's see if we can unpack it and make sense of it. Okay, the Chinese says you can rest, stay. The zhu here means you can stay with. You can stay with the Buddha recitation, Buddha mindfulness method of the 自在心. What is the 自在心? Word for word, it's the sovereign mind. Sovereign meaning you're the boss. You're completely in charge of your mind at this point. No emotions trip you up. No states of mind throw you over. No happiness makes you giddy. No sadness breaks your heart to the point you can't repair it. Right? That's, you're the boss of your mind. 自在. You stay in the mind that it's a clean, well-lit space. You can go there and you don't get lost. Different from my mind a lot of the time. And look, in that mind, according to your thoughts, Buddhas appear by reflection. So, when Buddhas appear to people, and they do, there are people who their mind is clean, their mind is pure, they don't hate, they don't use harsh speech to make people feel bad, they don't get the blues anymore. With that purity of mind, they can see the Buddha. The Sutra talks about, you're never apart from a vision of the Buddha. People who have that state of mind, spontaneously, without clinging to it, without attaching to it, are happy souls. How does it work? And why can't more of us, why can't I get to that state? Maybe because I don't know how it works. I have a hunch. This is how it works. According to our thoughts, Buddhas show up by reflection. It's 诸佛现其相. They appear, their image appears like the moon in water. Did you ever go out on a full moon or crescent moon and take a teacup that's full and still and quiet and set it down and see the moon appear in your teacup? Or in your saucepan full of water, or in your bird bath, or in a quiet pond or a lake? We left this morning at 4:30 along the North Fork of the Smith River. I know some of you also did too. And that water was so still. It's a nice wide river, but it was like a mirror. It was so beautiful. And as we got closer to Reedsport, the fishermen showed up. There's a couple spots where the lumber yard used to be that must be where the fish bite, because there were more cars showing up. Those guys, those fisher people, got up at 4 o'clock, and they were ready. They had, the equipment ready to go. Hungry fish hit those lures probably about 5 a.m., just before sunrise. Those guys are ready, but that was very impressive fishermen. But the water was just like a mirror. And I didn't see the moon's reflection. The moon was here and through the trees, so we didn't see the moon. But I think that's how the Buddhas appear. For the Buddha to appear in my mind, that the water of my mind has to be pretty quiet, has to be calm. Can't be full of ups and downs and happiness following misery and tears and laughter. Nothing wrong with tears and laughter. Everybody goes up and down. But if you want the Buddha to appear, your mind has to be still. Samadhi is the way to get there. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3 to go. Let's do 3. Here we go. This one right here. 住, ready? 住自业念佛门，知随众生所及机业，现气影像，令觉悟故。Okay, ready? Together. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in your own karma, where you know that, according to the karma that beings accumulate, their own reflections appear to facilitate their enlightenment. And I might add, or their misery. We hope that it's their enlightenment. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of. That's the boilerplate part. This is Bhikshu Cloud of Virtue saying, young man, you want to be mindful of the Buddha? Try this one on. Get ready. It's deep. What do? You stay in your own karma. And you know that, according to the karma that beings accumulate, including you, their own reflections appear to facilitate their enlightenment. Okay, one more time. Stay in your own karma. Let's take a look here. It's called the Buddha recitation method of your own karma. It's followed, let's see. No, this is just a solo. It's not a pair. Sometimes your own followed by others. So in this case, this is the Buddha recitation method where you stay with your own karma. The first verb is you know. You know what? According to the karma that living beings accumulate for themselves, xian, another verb, they make appear their images and thereby wake up. They make appear their reflections, and thus those reflections cause them to wake up. So I would say own karma, not your karma. This is you stay with own karma Buddha recitation method. So how do you how do you stay mindful of the Buddha? It's knowledge. And you know that living beings who wake up do so because it's based on the karma they create. That's it. Let's work on the English here. There's the method of mindfulness of the Buddha where you stay where living beings stay with their own karma, not you. You as a living being can do it, but I would translate it as abiding in one's own karma. And the way it works, this is a method, this is a visualization for Sudana to learn if he chooses to, okay? What does he do? He knows that beings will appear to facilitate their enlightenment by reflection according to the karma they create. Turn it around. Where you know that beings will wake up, facilitate their enlightenment, that's a 75-cent word for wake up. Beings will get enlightened by seeing the karma of their own behavior reflected in their minds. You will see that. Okay, and you'll see how beings become Buddhas. That's the point. You see them becoming Buddhas, and you'll understand that they wake up according to their karma. I would say, so do we. We wake up according to our karma. Here's one. You know what I forgot to say? Yesterday, at the end of the lecture, at the end of the retreat, I forgot to say, how did you all do without your phones for a week? I forgot to ask. There was no Wi-Fi up there. And I tell you, a lot of people carried them, even though they were dead, right? Carried them, because don't take it away from me. Even though there was no Wi-Fi, there was no phone signal up there. We were 20 miles into the woods. So I didn't ask, and I should have. I should have asked, did you all realize you just went a week without your phones? And one of the young women who came said, what I'm most looking forward to this week is to get off the grid, to power down. So what kind of karma did we create? We created karma this week without looking at Instagram, without buying on Amazon, you know? So, gee whiz, the karma that we created this week in the Oregon woods was karma without electronic assistance, without the benefit of social media. So that's interesting, isn't it? How long has humanity gone without social media? Since 2010? 2012 was when iPhones permeated. So we've been with it for 12 years. All of humanity's experience has been without this virtual reflection of ourselves on our devices. Interesting, isn't it? Within that short period of time, we have given up so much to our what is it? The reflections that appear to facilitate our confusion. All right, never mind. Two more, let's go. Here we go. 住, starting right here. Ready? 住神变念佛门，见佛所作，广大莲华，周遍法界，耳开夫故。All right, here we go. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in spiritual transformations, where you see the Buddhas seated on vast, magnificent lotus flowers that blossom everywhere throughout the Dharma realm. All right, that's fairly straightforward. Bhikshu Cloud of Virtue says, you want to see the Buddha in your mind and let that be your contemplation? They're sitting on lotuses and they bloom everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, why not? Last one. Ready? Right there. I'll give you a line, you give it back. 住虚空念佛门，观察如来，所有声云，庄严法界，虚空界故。All right, then he follows up and he says, 而我云何，能知能说，彼功德恒。Yep. Ready? Together. There is the method of mindfulness of the Buddha of abiding in space, where you contemplate thus come ones, clouds of bodies that adorn the Dharma realm and the realm of space. Then he says, how can I possibly know or speak of such practices of excellent virtue? Okay, quick summary. Sudana, our pilgrim, has been sent away by Manjushri Bodhisattva to go interview 52 teachers. This is number one of Manjushri's. Manjushri is number one. This is the first of the, external teachers. Took him, how long did it take? Was it a week? Took him hard searching. He went out to the mountains. He found the teacher up on a cliff, on a peak. He was on the other peak. There was a valley between. He had to run down and go up and then ask his questions and do as he was instructed to set up this relationship with a new teacher. He'd never met this monk before. He's going to talk to him. And the monk asked him a question, Sudana answers correctly. The monk says, good stuff. Let me teach you. Let's go to work. And he said, my method, what I'm good at being mindful of the Buddha. This is what I practice. I'm going to toss you in the deep end of the pool and give you 21 ways of looking at the Buddha. We just read the 21st one. That's what this is. And we've just looked into the Flower Garland Sutra, this incredible instruction manual for bodhisattvas, awakened beings. And this is like milk right from the cow. This is strong stuff, unpasteurized, unhomogenized, instructions from the Buddha, how to use the mind to get enlightened. And at the end of all of this incredible teaching, the teacher does something that every single one of the teachers does along the way. He says, that's all I know. How could I possibly know about anybody, any of the other real bodhisattvas, what they know and what they can teach? You should go ask them. They will tell you, right? So, humble, yeah. And it continues Sudana's pilgrimage. Because he's got to wake up to wisdom, and then he's got to wake up to compassion. And 21 of these teachers are women who teach him about compassion, how to open his heart. Can we do we'll finish with this, I take it back. Let's see here. No, there's a little more here. We'll stop here for now and come back to get the wrap up where he sends him away, because I want people to get the pattern of the handoff. Because Sudana, the thing that I want to explore as we go further into this is this relationship with teachers. I had no idea when I first showed up at Gold Mountain Monastery back in 1972 that I was going to do this thing. I was going to ally myself with a Buddhist teacher. That I didn't know anybody who had done that, and I did. My college roommate, he's the one who brought me across. But before that, I'd never heard of such a thing. I'd read about the sixth patriarch and how he brought to enlightenment 21 different people. And then those disciples went on to create the Chan school, the Zen school. But that was in the Tang Dynasty. That was 1,300 years ago. I didn't know it was still happening. And I had no idea what was involved in the relationship between a living teacher and him saying, all right, here's a formula. You can take refuge, you can take precepts, and if you choose to, you can go on and leave home and become a monastic disciple in the line of 2,500 years of people who have done that before you. The monks and nuns, the bhikshus and bhikshunis of the Buddha Sangha, still alive. You can do that if you want. I will judge your potential for leaving home, for becoming a monk, and give you a chance. Do you want to do it? And like I say, we had no model. The first 5 Americans to ever do that had only done it 2 years prior. 5 men and women from Buddhist Lecture Hall in San Francisco went to Taiwan and took the precepts. I was the 3rd group of Americans, but the 2nd group was only 3, so there were 8 before me. And in my group there were 4, and then bit by bit, we're now into the 15th round of men and women who have left home to become Buddhist monastics in the traditional mold. So how do you treat a teacher? What's the right way? We were clearly clueless about that. Master Hua had to teach us ceremonies. He had to teach us how to wear robes and how to walk, how to carry the deportment of a monk and nun. And he himself he didn't value Chinese ceremonies to bring them over to the West. And so the way we did our morning and evening and noon ceremonies, we do 2.5 hours of ceremonies a day, every day. And we were raised listening to Elvis Presley and Tammy Wynette and the beginnings of rock and roll. The Beatles happened after we had left home. And so the Chinese ceremonies we didn't sound like Chinese ceremony. They sounded like Westerners imitating Chinese ceremony. And the Chinese monks and nuns would come over and go, 根本不对，不是这样子的。哎呀，谁叫你这样做? You know, that doesn't sound right at all. Who taught you how to do that? And Master Hua would say, you figure it out. I'm not going to teach you Chinese ceremonies. You need to quickly bring the spirit of Mahayana Buddhist liturgy into the West so that Westerners can approach it. Westerners aren't going to learn Chinese music. So he said, I want you, 你们赶快把它改过来，写好了. He said, do it in a hurry. And of course, we, 30 years later, sort of, kind of, have it, our versions of Chinese, of Mahayana music. It will come. It definitely will come. But it takes actual knowledge of music to write something simple that people can sing without feel it with, and make it our own, make it ours, instead of, oh, this is really Asian, you know. So this is what we spent our time with at the retreat. Join me if you care to. One more. Guanyin Bodhisattva, 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 Guanyin Bodhisattva. One more round. Pusa, 2 syllables. Bodhisattva, 4 syllables. So, we'll see. every year we kind of groove that in a little deeper, and we'll see somebody's got to pick up the torch, and musical torch, mixing metaphors here. Pick up the musical torch and carry it further. Okay, now, just so we can commemorate the energy, the good, one of the people making the comments at the end of what impressed them about the week was that practice at Buddha Root Farm generates kind energy, kindness, the energy of kindness there. I'm sure it has to do with nature, which is very pure. There are no straight lines in nature, or very few. There are no corners in nature. Look at nature, right? It's like this. It's multiple, every direction, all at once, alive and listening. So when you go to these gentle woods to recite the name of the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion, it generates a goodness, a kindness. So I'm going to ask you to turn out those backlights in a minute. We're going to look at a 7-minute collection of the photos that were taken there. So if you don't mind sharing, let's see, I've learned QuickTime Player is not the one to use here. There we go. My tall fir trees touch the sky, where eagles raise their young. Timber wolves would serenade. When sundown song was sung, salmon swam home to their streams. Each year you'd find them there. Redwoods like cathedrals, every breath was like a prayer. Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lesson? Small blue marble in the air. You wasted all my topsoil, you fished my waters dry, you clear-cut my green trees. I can't breathe and I can't cry. What about your children? How far can you see? What we do to our neighbors becomes our destiny. Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of the day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lesson? Small blue marble in the air. Good night to the salmon, good night to the seal, good night to the turtles. May your spirits be healed. No one owns the fire, no one owns the air, no one owns the water. The earth's a gift to share. life itself is sacred. May we all one day be healed. May we find our great compassion when our kinship is revealed. Turtle Island lullaby, song for the end of the day, to ease us into twilight and send us on our way. We are all related on this planet that we share. Have we learned any lessons? Small blue marble in the air. A Buddha named Eternal Light made vows to save creation. He made a land where suffering's gone, a place of liberation. So use his vows and be reborn. Lotus flowers delighting, simply keep his name in mind. Never stop reciting. The Saha land is a place of pain, with struggle and contention, to find a world of utmost bliss. You first set your intention. Those men or women, rich or poor, rebirth not delighting, apply themselves with a single mind. Never stop reciting. I praise the Buddha's compassionate vows, with melodies unending. My body lives in a world of woe. My heart is world transcending, with bodhisattvas joyfully. I'll soon be reuniting, till I reach Amitabha's land. Never stop reciting. Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva. Okay, this is the group photo taken from a drone. Some of the folks had already returned at that point, but following this, just last night, I looked up there were 4 of us down at the half can coming up. Everybody else was in the Chan Hall. And I said, gee, look at that. I'll never stop reciting. So I'm not one to look for dragon clouds. I mean, there are people who like take every opportunity. Oh, auspicious dragon cloud. Yeah, okay, if that floats your boat. But those are remarkable clouds. Those are pretty amazing. All right, this clearly, this is too long by about half. But for those folks who were there, those photos are very meaningful. For those of us who are kind of like, we're looking at Uncle Ralph's, how I spent my summer vacation, photograph. Slideshow. Uncle Ralph used to have a slideshow, and okay, I got it. Let me show you from the cruise ship, a little bit of that, but we'll work on it so that people can find the highlights. So we have been advertising Buddha Root Farm, pointing people to the website for months now, and it's now behind us. It's over for another year. We're working on events that might be held down in Boulder Creek at Redwood Vihara. Especially if you have young people, 12 hours is a long way to drive to go up to that magnificent place in the coastal redwoods, the coastal forest of Oregon. As beautiful as it is, that's a long way to go. So we're working on Redwood Vihara as a place to bring families for maybe a day, for maybe a weekend, start there and build it up to a week or so. Just to let you know about that. Thank you for indulging me, letting me show our movie from our week in the woods. Master Hua said this is where the Buddha Dharma in the West will emerge. One reason probably being that ceremonies were in English. The ones that we have, we rehearsed, we did them a lot. And there is something special about living and reciting in the woods. It is pure, and the silence surrounds the sounds we make. So you wind up listening equally to the silence and to the sounds of the language, reciting the Bodhisattva's name. It's a remarkable experience, and speaking for myself, I always want to bring a little bit of that silence back with me to the Bay Area, where or wherever city I'm in, where there are so many layers of energy radiating out. And if I can keep my mind doing the simple work of mindfully reciting, I prefer the mantra. I like the Great Compassion mantra, but Guanyin's name or the mantra or a sutra, then it's like I never really left Buddha Root Farm. It's still with me. So let's make a wish for dedication of merit. Can send out the goodness to whomever could use it, and with whatever wish you would like to improve the world with. So let's do that. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving, you are miles away. To great compassion, wisdom had to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and may this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of painters in paradise may all become compassion and one. May all become compassion and wise. So before we bow to the Buddhas, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the many hearts and hands that put this lecture together. We have volunteers in Australia, we have volunteers in Taiwan, we have volunteers here offsite translating into Vietnamese, and my Chinese translator tonight is sitting in the back of the dining room, Dr. Wong. And so we have friends right here sitting in front of us who make all of these multiple connections so that the sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, can go out in multiple languages to people who can learn it, can enjoy it, and then on YouTube, you're free to pick it up asynchronously, that is to say, at any time you choose. All right, we will conclude with bowing to, we need to put the Buddha, yes I do. Let's put Guanyin up here. Let's see here. There we go, it's Master Hua. There it is. Okay, right from where you're sitting, encourage you to join me. Here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, that's it for tonight. We'll see you all next week, everyone. Amitofo. Good night, all.